Welcome to Stream Detroit, the Big Digital Thinker series. I'm Mike McClintock with Brad Fox. There's the people mover going by.
Right on cue.
Right on cue. It's like, yep. Our special guest today in the Big Digital Thinker series is Liz Boone, the Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Donor, the one of the original native Detroit agencies. Woo-hoo.
Yay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
So what does what's an Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at Donor do?
Well, that's an interesting question. And a lot of people say, why does a marketing agency need a marketing officer? Aren't you all in marketing? And, it's kind of like the story of the cobbler's children having no shoes. You need somebody in charge of telling the story of the agency. So I help put together the narrative of, our people, our culture, our product, which is essentially, our ideas, and then help package that up to communicate with prospective employees, prospective clients, consultants, so that they understand who we are, what we stand for, what we believe, and why we matter. How are we differentiated, and why a client would want to work with us.
Okay. Well, that's a good idea. I definitely know the cobbler's kids have no shoes. I'm the poster child for that.
Right,
I make digital things all day long, yet I still don't even know what I do or how to sell myself with it or tell my story.
Right.
So the cobbler's kids have no shoes for sure.
Yes.
So we're here. It's dark out tonight. We're looking up Woodward. We can see all the beautiful Christmas lights. We can see all the way to Midtown. You know a little something about Midtown. You were just in Midtown.
I was just in Midtown. I stopped on my way in at my store, which is Nora Modern. It's on Cass and Canfield.
I heard there's a few things going on at Cass and Canfield.
Yeah, it's like becoming the design district, over there. There's MoCA and there's a DIA, and then there's a number of stores that are really creating this destination for people to come to shop and eat and dine and drink and, have a good time.
It's crazy up there. I mean, it's like every time I drive through there, which is all the time, there's something different. There's something new. There's something going on. There's something opening. There's something I didn't see that before. I mean, 10 years ago, it's just night and day. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we've seen some of the plans, for the next 5-10 years, and it's exciting. There's so much growth happening, and more stores coming, more shops opening up. And last Saturday was Small Business Saturday, a great, American Express program that we're very thankful for as a small business. And it was just buzzing. Midtown was full of people, and they were coming from all over. They were coming from not only the Detroit area, but also, Chicago, Toronto, people.
Really?
All over, yeah, because people were coming back.
They're hip to Midtown? They're
hip to Midtown. We get people from Canada. We get people from Brooklyn. It's definitely a destination.
Something that I think is really cool is I live in West Village, and there's a West Village in New York City. And every time I hashtag West Village, I always get about 18 to 20 people from New York City who chime in, who are vicariously excited about what's happening in our West Village.
There's so many curious people, and because really the creative class is part of the resurgence of this city, and we're so proud to be a part of kind of the design center of the city,
right? And
selling products that are really celebrate not only the design heritage of Detroit, because we think about Charles and Ray Eames. They met at Cranbrook,
right?
We had Yamasaki, who did the Wayne State campus as well as the Chase building, and we have some beautiful architecture and the design heritage that we opened Nora to kind of celebrate and shine a light on.
Well, this definitely is a design town.
Yes.
I mean, this is the original design town.
Yeah, automotive design. Think about that.
I mean, it's like crazy, and like you just mentioned, Eames. I mean, furniture. This is
we just talked about an Eames chair today. We had a meeting over at Campbell Ewald. It was amazing. Yeah.
Well, and you have Herbert Miller right down the road, and Knoll right down the road, and so there's it's about time, that it came back. I mean, it's been here, and it's our heritage. It's like we're grabbing our heritage and saying, let's shine a light on it and celebrate.
Yeah, we don't need to be the next anything.
Yeah,
we were the original. Detroit was the original everything. It was the original Silicon Valley, the original design center. It's time, and that's what I love about Midtown is it's all independent brands. It's all unique things that you're just, where did that come from?
Right.
So and you said there's a design district. What do you mean by that? I mean,
well, you have, over there you do have MOCAD, you have you have CCS,
right?
The school. You have Shinola. You have art galleries that are popping up, over there.
Private
So exactly, and then there's drinks. What is it called? D3 Detroit Design. Oh gosh, I know them by D3. I'm trying to.
I can see the logo in my head.
Yeah.
The creative corridor.
Yes, thank you very much. So there is a community of designers, and this is providing a center. Oftentimes you got to name something, for it to become, something bigger than it is. So it's really just, we're starting to say, wow, connecting all the dots of all these people who, have some connection to the industry, and saying, let's rally around this notion of a design district.
Yeah, that's cool, and I think it's neat that M1 Rail, which we're under construction. Fortunately, we don't have any jackhammers today, but I think it's going to be a great connector between what's happening in this area from technology and John Vervados and all the restaurants and so forth, connecting downtown proper to Midtown. And I think all the development that's going to happen between here and there is just going to continue to grow. And then right down the street, we also have the new hockey arena going up as we speak. So
plug in the gap in the middle.
That's right, exactly right. So that's going to definitely be a catalyst to continue that growth from downtown up to Midtown.
Midtown's the new Ferndale. I can't even say that.
Well, it's funny.
It's the new Royal Oak for sure. Everybody's leaving Royal Oak and moving to Midtown.
As they should, or more over to East Village, or to
Corktown,
or West Village with Jeff.
That's right.
We can't even keep up with the restaurants in Corktown.
It's going to be great. There's another one opening this weekend. Gold Cash Gold. Very excited. Food is just incredible, and the space is just beautiful.
Have you had the food?
I have. Yeah.
Sneak preview.
It's fantastic. I had a sneak preview, and it's the chef has a French influence, but also like a Southern gourmet influence, and so you put those together, and it's just delicious.
French influence with a Southern gourmet.
Yeah.
So it's Louisiana.
No, he worked in a gourmet resort in Tennessee.
Okay.
So, but it's fresh, it's crafted, it's artisanal, but it's also approachable.
Right.
It's very, the price point is very accessible, because you have Slows, and then you have, Gold Cash Gold bookending on the other end, and then Mercury River Bar across the street, and the price point is very accessible.
Right.
For the market.
It's amazing the restaurants in Detroit that are coming up that are just so cool. It's like, where did all these restaurateurs come from?
Well, it's a great community, and it's funny. It's like they've all kind of spawned from somewhere. You had Andy Halliday, who was the executive chef at Roast, just opened Selden Standard.
Right.
You had Mark. I'm going to just trash his last name. It's a lovely Polish name, and I have Polish children, so I put Djokovic or something like that. I'm sorry, Mark, but he came
We'll
from...
just edit that out later.
MGM.
I'll say it over the top.
He came from MGM Grand Casino, and he's from Bright & Co. So it's like everyone's kind of just coming, from, somewhere and doing their own thing. I mean, that's the spirit of Detroit. It's like, you just put yourself out there, hang your shingle, and it's a great city of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Is it because you think there's enough people now? Have we gotten to a tipping point now where you can put a shingle out there and have people see the shingle and come through the door? Is it just hip? Is it just cool now? And people are coming from the suburbs, or is it people? I mean, there's obviously a lot of people living down here now. They can't build housing fast enough for that. Is it more local, or is it both? I'd
say it's the and. I think you're getting more and more people who are living down here. You're getting more businesses that are coming here. So whether that's your lunch crowd, or your dinner crowd, or your reps who want to take people out and entertain, I think people are just yearning for a sense of community and for an urban center.
Right.
And I don't think that the suburbs are necessarily filling that, desire. And not to take anything away from anything that's happening in the suburbs, but I think people like...
It's still the suburbs.
Yeah. They want a city center. They want a vibrant urban, kind of the heart, and this is definitely, you can see, look out the window. Our heart is beating loud and proud right now, and there's so much to do, especially for the young people. The young people want to be, in an urban center.
Well, they're driving it too.
Yeah,
there's young people here that are just, they're born into this. This is just obvious for them, and they're like pioneering it. I mean, they're everywhere. You know? So good for them.
Absolutely. No, it's great to see it. And each restaurant that's opening has its own vibe, has its own, what are you in the mood for? It's now you have options.
Right.
It's good to have choice. Before, historically, there hasn't been a lot of choice in recent history anyways. And I think the other thing, from my perspective, I think there's an authenticity with Detroit, right? It's been, certainly there's, Detroit has been going downhill for 40 years, so to speak. But there's an authenticity and there's a lack of pretense, right? I mean, something like Gold Cash Gold, they basically are refurbishing an old pawnbroker shop, right? Even though it's a fancier restaurant now, it's still, there's no pretense. There's, to your point, there's an affordable price point, so it's not pricing people out of the market. But I think it's just all authentic. It's people want this to happen, and I think finally it's happening.
The Detroit metropolitan area is big. It's vast. Yeah. And now we're giving those people an option instead of going to Chicago for the weekend. Come to your city. Go downtown.
It does give you
down the road.
A River North Chicago feel from like 18, 20 years ago. It's like, and this is going
I lived there
faster.
18, 20 years ago. I lived in Chicago,
Well, that's wild,
I did.
There's probably a bunch of stories we could laugh about that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, do you see the parallels?
Absolutely. And
does it seem faster here now?
It seems slower for the residential to get built. In Chicago, in 87 to 99, it was just like everywhere you looked, stuff was going up.
That's
everywhere.
A good point.
It's like we need more residences.
There's a ton of, young creatives, young entrepreneurs. I mean, millennials are definitely the most entrepreneurial generation since a long time, maybe since like the Mayflower or something.
Everyone wants to be Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, and good for them. And you know what? Everybody can be. I mean, it doesn't. There's not as many barriers to entry as there used to be. Right. So I mean, they really, and they want to live down here. And hopefully they can figure out how to build apartments that they can drop their money on faster rather than later.
Absolutely, that's key.
Do you think where does the money come from? Because it's like you've seen it before where it was just like every building in Chicago was being condoed out, and there's obviously some famous investors and people who are buying up properties and things around here now and doing a monstrously good job of turning them into apartments. I wonder what's got to happen for it to turn the corner and really take off.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope, and I've heard, word on the street since the bankruptcy, we moved beyond that hopefully the financing will kind of loosen up a little bit and investors will, be able to kind of do their thing and developers will be able to do their thing because it's so important. We need density. And that's, the analogy was, bringing up with Chicago is that we need more people. We need living downtown, and so we need more high rises. We need more mixed use buildings. We need more, single family homes. We need more walk ups. That have multiple.
The demand is there, so I mean, it should be profitable. Obviously, it's not like too expensive to acquire properties down here.
Right.
So you would think. I wonder. So you think maybe the bankruptcy itself was sort of some sort of a stigma that was holding things back, or people just wanted to see what was going to happen? Because I mean, you would think that if you had an apartment for rent right now, you'd have people lined up down the block.
Absolutely. Yeah, the occupancy rate of Midtown, I think, is like 98%. So I know there's some buildings going up. You see it happening now.
What is the 2%? What was wrong with that place?
We just need more.
Well, that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so maybe the emerging from bankruptcy is the final nail coming out of the coffin for the city of Detroit, right? To kind of free up some of that money to the people who may be hesitant to invest.
Right. I think that's it, confidence. And then I think, who knows? The banks, hold a lot of the keys to the kingdom as well. And maybe now if they have confidence in our government, that will happen.
Yeah.
That's kind of beyond my pay grade. And I'm in
probably
marketing.
me too.
I'm in marketing.
Right, we're in marketing.
How
do we get talking about global economics here?
Right.
The global economics series at Grand Circus on Stream Detroit.
Can I say Laffer Curve just once?
Sure, if you can put it in a sentence.
Excellent.
Laffer Curve is for Economics 101 in college.
Okay.
That was
supply and demand. Hey.
Keynesian.
Yeah, we're all Keynesians now. So there's a lot of creatives down here. There's a lot of young creatives. There's a lot of young filmmakers, designers, artists, people making things. how did they get involved with the bigger brands? I mean, do you see a lot of that coming to Donor? Do you talk to a lot of, maybe smaller agencies or people who maybe it's not necessarily a person in a garage, but, somebody maybe down here at a Grand Circus or a Bamboo or something like that. Does that happen a lot at Donor?
I think at Donor, absolutely. I mean, we are an agency of makers. I mean, you think about it, people are technologists, people who build our websites or build our apps or, create, pictures, images. That is the old,
the maker. That content.
The maker mindset. Yes, absolutely. It's the creator maker mindset. So absolutely. And excited to see what's happening, in Detroit with technology and people really embracing it. There was a San Francisco Examiner article not too long ago that said, "Is Detroit the new San Francisco?" So I loved having a San Francisco paper ask that question.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. I think I saw that.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, we have the highest per capita of engineers than any other city in America. Think about our research institutions with University of Michigan. And then at Madison Building, right around the corner here. I love that we are really putting a stake in the ground, that not only are we the original from a design perspective, but we're the original in Silicon Valley. How about that?
We are. I mean, we were doing Silicon Valley before they were. Silicon Valley originally wanted to be the new Detroit.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the ecosystem is potentially here. I think now it's just got to reach a tipping point where everybody can start working together. So.
And we're best of breed want to stay. I mean, we still have young kids coming out of school, coming out of U of M or Michigan State or wherever, and we need to help them to see Detroit as an option. Right. Because we're growing our own, we're home growing our talent, even for Donor. But if we ever need to hire someone, with a CPG background, consumer packaged goods background, it's harder to get those people to come to Detroit. We have a lot of CPG clients. We have a lot of food clients at Donor.
So you have to recruit them from New York and Chicago.
It's harder to recruit. Yeah, it's still a hard sell. It really is. I think every little bit that we're all doing to try to elevate the profile of the city as a design center, as a technology center, is helping kind of rebuild that, our image and our profile. But we still do have a ways to go.
Certainly is a lot more affordable, I would think, if you're fresh out of college or 1 or 2 years under your belt working for a bigger agency in New York or Chicago.
Right.
Part of the story is there's this thing going on. Mike and I talk about this all the time, about this thing that's going on in Detroit. It's really exciting, but you have to tell that story, but you can also tell that authenticity, that lack of pretense, and by the way, it's very affordable.
Right. That's a good story for people with kids, too. Housing, schools, great schools, and it is still a hard sell, and we can drink our own Kool-Aid, to a degree. We can all believe it. But sometimes people, I spend a lot of time in Los Angeles and in New York, and there's still people out there who are just like, really? Detroit? So we still have a long way to go. We need critical mass. We need more people, and we need more people coming down to shop. I mean, our store's doing really great, but we need more people. It's like, come on, Somerset Mall, or like giving back to your,
the local small independent businesses.
We love American Express and Shop Small,
but now that they've seen it, now that people that came down because of that, maybe it was buzzing. They've seen it now. They've experienced it. Now they're going to want to come back.
I hope they do. I hope they come back this Saturday.
Now that Woodward's open.
And the Maker Fair.
And what?
The Maker Fair.
The Maker Fair. You're right. That's this weekend. Yeah, that's really great.
Wait, Maker Fair?
Yeah, the Masonic Temple.
A different one?
It's like a craft fair, urban craft fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
As opposed to the one that was at the Henry Ford?
Oh no, that's very different.
That's a very different Maker Fair.
That is the Maker Fair, but that's like from Make magazine, and that's more like tinkering and making robots and
Uber
and shooting rockets.
Yeah. This is more I make pottery, or I make this really cool hat out of
hemp or something.
Hemp, yes. No, it's better than that though too. It's not that that's bad.
That's cool stuff. I mean, that's the
jewelry, and people just making really beautiful things, from 2 hands.
So how do we continue to home grow our own talent? So we've got digital artists and digital filmmakers and software people. how do they, get into the big leagues? How do they craft their pitch for that? Because I think that's some of the most difficult part of it is that we've got a lot of people down here and around here, and they don't know how to take that next step or make that next pitch. So how do they do that with like a donor? I mean, how does it, if somebody's got a great content agency or they can make great content, how do they pitch you?
That's a fascinating question. And because of the startup mindset, there's like every day something new. Every day getting a call, we've got this newfangled thing. And in some cases it's really amazing. So how do you sift through that and figure out how to allocate your time, find out who am I going to meet with first.
Right.
Because I can't spend my entire day in rep meetings. But it's getting experience. It's having a proof of concept. It is having more than just it's having financial backing, knowing that they definitely are someone that is viable, a viability factor. Because oftentimes a big brand's not going to take a risk on a true startup unless you are a brand that is their platform is all about innovation and being first or being risky or whatever. The brand is in some
because it is a big risk. Yeah. So how does that work if you've got a lot of smaller we'll call them agencies or creatives and maybe they don't have a ton of backing but they got a great idea? Are there progressive brands that would still work with that, or what's the level that you got to get to?
It all depends on your clients and what their goals and objectives and audience, you just have to look at the makeup of the overall, what are you trying to achieve? And there are some brands that, some come to mind for me, like maybe a Red Bull or Taco Bell just did like the, Snapchat campaign that they did. Some brands are more willing to like just try stuff and innovate. And if their platform is, about innovation, if they're trying to reach influencers, if they're trying to signal that we're risk takers, if that's what their brand stands for, then I would imagine there's a greater place for that. Other brands are a little bit more, and I don't want to use the word conservative because sometimes it sounds like it's a negative, but they want more assurance. They want more efficacy built into their plan. So they want to know for every dollar that we're spending that we're going to get some desired result or some predictive result. And oftentimes, if you're going with a startup, there's just too much too many unknowns.
So it's not necessarily a financial risk, but it's a risk of the idea because you really don't have a big track record of.
And the outcome, it's like marketing dollars are usually a finite resource. So where are you going to put a dollar? And we do encourage our clients to reserve a percentage for innovation, to try new things. But it does always have to kind of map back to your target, and your goals, and your objectives, and your brand.
Sure.
To make sure that it's the right thing. But I would say, there's somebody out there. If it truly is a good idea, good ideas will get attention. If it's truly something that's innovative, if it's truly something that's valuable to the end consumer, because the brands are always trying to connect with the consumer. So if there's an innovation, again, Snapchat. If there's eyeballs there. There are young people that are spending all their time there.
Right.
And so therefore, how to monetize that, and if there's a way to do that and put a brand in front of all of those customers, I think brands should innovate and try it. So I think there's always room for innovation.
Yeah. How does that? The Snapchat, Facebook. We've got all these different social media platforms. What are they looking at branded communities now? Are they looking at community? Is that a big thing? Is that part of that innovation budget? Is that something that they would consider taking a risk on? And obviously they're all different. Every brand is going to be different. But like you mentioned, Snapchat. How do you get from Snapchat to buying a taco?
Well, they have Snap Cash now. They have the new thing that's called Snap Cash.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a brand new thing.
Wow.
So I don't think they've launched it yet, but they've put their ad campaign is out there for Snap Cash, where I can snap cash to you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Crazy what's happening.
Mike, could you snap a lot of cash into my wallet? That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, hey, can you stop me 20? Sure, Snapchat now it's in your It's in your bank account.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
It's something you learn
every day. So, but back to your question, I think social, again, it's where are your customers? What are your objectives? If a brand is trying to build community, create loyalty, create advocacy, social is a great place to do that. But the social game is changing. Facebook, announced their changes to their algorithm. Mm-hmm. They keep changing it all the time, but they announced another one that's going to go into effect in January. And it's a pay-to-play game, in social now. So, I think brands for a long time took that great community and those eyeballs for granted. Like, oh, this was ours and ours forever. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, it's Facebook's, and now you got to pay to participate. So, but it should.
How do you measure loyalty, though? That's that's the part that's like, okay, you got to tie it back to some sort of measurable thing. Right. But then how do you measure loyalty via social?
There's many companies that are out there that can do closed loop analysis, Datalogics being one of them, where they can definitely.
Those guys are smart.
They are very smart, yeah. So you can connect the dots back to offline, online to offline sales, including social behaviors, and so it's all possible. You got a phone, you got a Pixel, you got a tag. Mm-hmm. They're finding us no matter where we are. Mm-hmm.
So more and more you hear, agencies, historically media buyers and planners and, creative and so forth. More and more you're hearing agencies talk about branded content. Mm-hmm. And, some agencies will even say, hey, we're not only just media buyers and planners, but we're also publishers. Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty big shift. So an example might be like a 2.5 minute long video that a marketer would distribute through YouTube or some other social outlet. How does Donor think about branded content? Because as you know, content's expensive to produce, right? Good content, I should say, is expensive to produce. So there's a balance, right? I mean, on one hand, you want all this great content that an agency can produce beyond a traditional 30-second spot or a print. How do you guys think about that branded content arena? And I'm sure, again, it depends on objectives and your client and so forth. But how is Donor thinking about that branded content sphere?
We're thinking about content marketing very holistically, and it all, again, starts with the story. What is the story of the brand? What are they trying to tell? And then you kind of break down that story. What is the narrative? And then you figure out what are the various story arcs that feed that narrative, and everything that contributes to that storytelling is content. So content is your TV commercial, content is an email campaign, content is a newsletter, it's a direct mail piece, it's a social media post, it's everything is content. And so you just have to figure out what role does it play? How does it feed the narrative? How does it contribute to that narrative? And then what is the best way to tell the story? In some cases, the best way to tell the story may be through video. In some cases, it may be through a picture or an infographic or an animated GIF. So we look at it very holistically and think about what is the narrative, break it down into different kind of story arcs, just like a book, what are the various chapters that add up to the total story. And then, always ensuring that there's this dual purpose with when you said brand as publisher. It's not just about telling a story anymore. It's also building the story with your audience and inviting them in to participate in the storytelling, so that it's collaborative, it's conversation. It's not just, we got these points about our product that we have to communicate, that we have to sell. It's not about sell. It's more about tell and share and collaborate.
Storytelling.
Yes, exactly. So it changes the approach,
right?
And the way you engage consumers. I would dare say I think we're heading into like a post-marketing era. Where
that's a pretty good statement there.
Yeah, because I think consumers are so savvy. Yeah. And we can see right through it, especially the young kids. They're just like, you're marketing to me.
Right.
Stop it.
That. Yeah, stop.
So how does that work then as the content, you got the big ideas, you're creating the big and tying it all in with the content. How do you become the people that are interacting with? Do you become like the call center almost of it? Is it like...
you just have to tell interesting stories, and you have to engage your audience. You have to respect your audience. You have to give them something of value. You have to entertain them, or inform them, or educate them, or tickle their funny bone, or their their mind, So it's definitely more complex, but it just really requires you to work a little harder.
Do you have to deal with like a lot of, I don't know, maybe vendors the wrong word, but do you have a lot of
partners, like other
partners and
sure.
people that handle a lot of that sounds like, day-to-day kind of grind of interacting with the customers?
Well,
and how do you manage all that? How do you find out who they are? How do you figure out how to even orchestrate that whole thing? It sounds like a gigantic ant colony.
That's a good way to put it. And I will build on that ant analogy, if you like. I was just listening to a Radio Lab program recently, and they talked about ants and how it's about emergence, patterns emerging. And that's what kind of has to happen to a degree. It's like you have to find the natural flow of your story, find partners, to help you tell that story. Like we use a lot of partners, whether it's YouTube stars or Vine stars or bloggers who already have kind of built-in audiences, and invite them to share our story. But it has to be authentic. They have to believe it. It has to be believable and be authentic. But those are partners that we bring on board. We bring tech partners on board. Yes, it is. This makes it very much so a collaboration. But that, going back to the original, definition of an advertising agency, we act as agents. We help on behalf of the client. Depending on the task at hand, we'll bring, we'll assemble the, what was that superhero program from the 70s?
The League of Justice. League of Justice.
Hall of Justice or Super Friends.
Justice League.
The Justice League, thank you. So we assemble and bring all the superheroes to the table to rally behind, our clients' challenge.
So Donor's been around and is a kind of a Detroit-born and raised agency, if you will. But as a brand, Donor does not, it seems to me, or at least my perception is that it's not as big as some of the other bigger agency brands that are out there. So how does Donor compete against that? Or how do you guys, work with clients when you're kind of doing new business pitches? You should work with Donor because...
Good question. And that's one of the reasons why I joined Donors. They asked for my help in elevating their profile and help, defining, exactly that. What is our, unique differentiating point of view of the agency? And oftentimes to do that, you have to go back to who you are. Where did you come from? What are your roots? What do you stand for? And the first thing, Donor has an incredible creative heritage, creative boutique shop. You think about what would you do for a Klondike bar?
A lot.
And
somebody spent 4 days in jail.
Yeah, we heard somebody's brother or something. I don't know if I'd go that far.
I wouldn't go that extreme.
Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. What name that brand?
Timex.
Yes, that was a Donor tagline. Plastic pickle stork. Remember that?
Tootsie Pop?
Tootsie Pop. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Yeah, so,
that's amazing.
Incredible.
That's amazing.
Amazing creative heritage. And so that's
good stuff.
Really good stuff. And so that's part of our heritage. The other part of our heritage is retail and commerce driven. Getting results, driving, making the cash register ring. And so that is also a big element. We had Highland Appliance, and, we do Chrysler's Tier 2 work, so driving business for Chrysler's Jeep and Dodge and Fiat. And so we have a lot of retail business at the agency. So thinking about creativity, thinking about commerce, and then thinking about the new era of commerce, which really, I think what we're seeing is a lot of the business and commerce is culminating in the palm of our hands with mobile phones and technology and social commerce. And so we are kind of looking at that, saying brands today, CMOs at companies, really, as well as CEOs, are asking for much more efficacy of their efforts in marketing, and technology allows that. Digital advertising and marketing techniques allow for that. So that's the space that we're really looking to lean into more with our clients, is being able to take our retail knowledge, understanding what motivates a consumer to drive behavior, to drive, not only a good thought. A lot of marketing is like, oh, I feel good about that brand, which is important, but also getting somebody to move, to take action, to buy something, to click. to change a behavior is really what we're all about. So that's the type of differentiation. We ladder that out to this notion of ideas that move people. Mm-hmm. So very rooted in ideas, creativity, but we're going to drive business results for you. And I think that's true to Donor's heritage, and it's true today.
That's cool. I think that is, it definitely kind of stands out, at least because there is that creative heritage. You think about those brands, it's pretty amazing. Like all those catchphrases that I grew up as a kid back in the 1930s. But so on,
ads.
What's that?
Radio ads.
Radio ads. And I talk like this, see? So one of the other questions related to that is, I just lost my train of thought, but we all we're going down the rat hole again. Now would be a good time to talk about lasers.
Yep, and time machines.
So we've asked some of our other guests this question related to consumers and digital. So who owns the data, right? So do consumers own the data? Do marketers own the data? Do the agencies own the data? I would love to get your perspective on that topic. And if we're obviously not going to solve that problem, but it's an interesting dialogue to have because there's a lot of different perspectives. Because consumers probably think, hey, you can't follow me, unfollow me, or whatever. So I'd like to get your perspective on who owns the data.
That is a very good question. Gosh, if I had the answer to that, I'd probably I'd do a startup. That's a very complicated question. Clearly, I would add another layer: the platform. Like.
Publisher,
Facebook's
right?
The publisher, the publisher or the platform. I think ideally, as a consumer, I wish I could have control of my data. I wish that I could have my own data profile and had a data locker to allow brands to have access when I want brands to have access. I think as a consumer, I would love that. But if I put on my marketer hat, I could say, wait a minute, this is something that you're coming to us, you're buying a product of ours, we want to better serve you. It's not just about marketing to you. It's about how do we be a better company for you, in service of you. And if we don't have access to that information, how will we be able to do that better for you? So, it's going to be great for a while. I don't think the advertising agencies will own the data. I can say that probably almost outright. That's not going to happen. But we need to be able to have, I think, access to it to help our clients. So that's to be continued conversation.
It sounds like Doc Searles with his VRM platform. Have you seen that from Harvard? He's the guy that wrote the Clue Train Manifesto, and he's got this whole thing going where it's like the opposite of CRM, where all of the different companies own, have that, and then try to send it to you. It's you own it, and then you allow which vendors get access to it, and then give them permission, and then they can interact with it. It's almost like a little contract.
It's push versus pull, right?
My fear is that the horse has left the barn, or it's out there.
There's a lot of horses running all over.
So I don't know how consumers are going to be able to,
Well, there was a weird meme that was on Facebook the last few days where people were putting some sort of legalized looking sort of goofy post thing. It was debunked by Snopes, in a few minutes. But I guess my point in that is that obviously they care about it somehow or another.
Yeah, it's interesting, the notion of privacy. And I think folks of my generation, I wasn't born in the 30s, but very closely there.
Thank you for reminding me.
We definitely revere our privacy. But young kids, I think they feel very differently, at least right now. Maybe they'll change.
Right.
But, it's...
But they're hip to it.
Yeah.
They're not... The digital natives, they know how to lock it down better. And sometimes they don't care because they understand it and they're just like, whatever. And they're creating that persona that they're allowing to be out there, and then they've got their digital self, and then they've got their old fogies like me. It's just like get off my lawn with the privacy.
Right.
I don't really say that though, do I?
Do you shake your fist like this?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah. You should see my lawn.
Yeah, and then you can think about the device too. That's another potential owner of the data. Is like
Apple owns everything,
or the Googles. Right. Yeah, so it's. Where there's money, follow the money. I hate to say it, that's the way to go typically. Just follow the money because they'll probably.
That's why Apple owns it all.
They'll pass.
Don't they have all the
government will decide that whoever pays the freight for the politicians will rule the day. That's my cynical.
Well, that's true.
I don't think consumers, are gonna own their data. I'm saying it right now.
Okay.
I flip-flopped. I said it was to be determined, but I think it's.
See, you said we weren't going to solve it.
Well, we've done. Where's the gavel?
To a conclusion now.
Done and done. On the notion of mobile, you read, mobile being much smaller devices and, tracking and fraud and, click-through rates and all that stuff. So there's been a lot of studies recently about, mobile, accidental clicks, for example, and fraud and bots and all that stuff. How does Donor think about some of these things? Because these things are always out there and they're always going to be out there, whether it's iframes and bogus, bot traffic and so forth. How do you guys think about that, and how do you guys protect your clients from a lot of that stuff that's out there?
That's a very good question. We are members of the 4As, and I was just at the ANA Masters of Marketing Conference in Orlando in October, and there's an incredible movement in the industry against fraud. And my former boss, John Patel, he was working, I don't know if he still is, but he was on the board of the IAB and headed up the fraud division, anti-fraud division, because it hurts everyone. It hurts publishers, it hurts consumers, it hurts advertisers. There's, right now, is there any way to absolutely 100% protect your client from any of that? No, because it's happening. But the industry itself recognizes that this is something that's very important. And, so we a lot of times just have to, make sure that the partners that we do business with, are reputable partners.
Right.
And, staying on top of that is really important.
And I also think that they're not necessarily correlated, but, kind of the programmatic space too. There's a lot of movement in kind of the digital advertising world to move more and more of kind of that media buying element through kind of programmatic, real-time bidding and so forth. But as a creative shop, on the other hand, right, I think you know where I'm going with this question, like that, if Donor historically and probably should moving forward still kind of, because advertising agencies are about ideas, right, and communication of ideas and persuasion and great parties. But I mean,
there's a great party going down the D shows tonight. So there's a big ad D show. There's a big Detroit ad party going on right now. But I chose to come here.
Wow.
Instead.
Well, we're flattered. So on that programmatic note, how do you guys balance that? That's a big balance, right? Because on one hand, programmatic is much more efficient from a buying and selling standpoint, because one could say that an ad impression is an ad impression. But on the other hand, you have the creative element, and you want to have some customized programs for all of your clients, right? You don't want to have just this robot and put this thing through and buy all this media. You want to have that customized element. So it is a balance. How do you guys think about that balance between the programmatic efficiencies and working with customized ideas with your partners?
Well, you nailed it. That's a challenge because we've all seen the banner blindness charts. It's like people are not necessarily looking at banners. Click-through rates have just are dropped. They're abysmal. Most clients want engagement. They want context is so important. I think we definitely know that they are pushing for efficiency with their media spend, but you always have to bring it back to return on that investment. What did you get? I don't think impressions are really the thing that a lot of brands should be looking at. They should be looking overall, at engagement, participation, time spent, exactly, but there's going to always be the push and the pull, and I think there's a race to the middle. It's like, how do you make that content, that branded content or that native advertising or that stuff that's going to create the higher engagement rates more efficient. And the programmatic, pretty soon, it's going to be, okay, it's not just about, you get what you pay for, So I think there's a little bit of the race to the middle, sweet spot.
Yeah.
Liz Boone,
yes.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Big Digital Thinker series on Stream Detroit.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Great to see you again, Liz.
Nice to see you too, Brett. Thank you.
Yeah.